Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Rawlings for Emerging Civil War. Now, we're doing a special little video series for you that we are calling ECW Authors Get Illustrated. Over the last half a year or so, several of our authors, contributors, and good friends have contributed volumes to a series published by Casemate Publishing in collaboration with Savas Beatie called Casemate Illustrated. And joining me at this time is Chris Mackowski. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me today, Daz. I appreciate it.
First, start by telling everyone what the titles of your Casemate Illustrated books are called, because just like Dave, you have two, don't you?
I do. I was asked to write about the Vicksburg campaign, which is a campaign that fascinates me. We split it up into two parts. The first one is Grant's failed offensive. If you can kind of see it past the little angel halo on the screen there. And this covers everything up until he gets across the river at the end of April of 1863. And so that includes like the attempts by the U.S. Navy in the summer of 62, and then, everything from Chickasaw Bayou all through the different bayou expeditions that Grant has until finally he's able to get across the river at Bruinsburg. And then the second book picks up when he gets across the river, and it covers the inland campaign, the battles, and the siege. So up through the surrender on July 4th, 1863. So it was kind of neat to be able to take a whole look at the entire Vicksburg campaign in its entirety and to kind of parse out some pretty neat threads and themes and kind of tell a story that I was familiar with that I hadn't had a chance to really write about before. And so it was a pretty cool project.
Yeah, and so obviously, when did you first become involved in this project? Tell us about how that went down.
I actually got a cold call from Ted, and he said, I want to have a Vicksburg book in this Casemate Illustrated series. I've convinced him to do two books instead of one. And hey, could you do it? He'd had someone else that was actually going to do it, and that person had to back out. So Ted needed someone kind of in a pinch. And he's like, "You can write 30,000 words." I was like, "Well, yes, I can this week." And so it actually only took me about 6 weeks to write both books. It's about 75, 80,000 words altogether, and just kind of banged through it and had a good time.
So, were there any new sources, archives, methods that you explored to bring a fresh perspective or to this narrative?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was fresh to me and new to me. But of course, having been in with some of those sources when I did my book on the Battle of Jackson, Mississippi, I kind of knew where I wanted to turn and what I had available. It's surprising how quickly 35,000 words goes when you're writing a manuscript, so you don't really have time to really delve into the archives. The purpose of this book series is really very similar to the Emerging Civil War series, where it's providing a 30,000 foot view of the story. So you don't necessarily have to have tons and tons and tons of source material because you just don't have the time or space to use it that way. So I was able to hit kind of the some of the better known stuff, some things that I had dug up when I was doing the Battle of Jackson, Mississippi, and found a couple neat little tidbits here and there that I was able to work in as well.
Yeah, okay. So that was what I was going to ask you. Was there anything unexpected or you uncovered during the research of putting these together?
Yeah, I would say that it's probably not anything that's groundbreaking for someone who's familiar with the Vicksburg campaign. If you've read Tim Smith's Incredible Five book series and all that, but you're not going to read this and be like, oh wow. But I think what you will get is a really well told story. That's the one thing I always concentrate when I'm writing my books is tell a good story, make it something someone wants to read. So I think that's one thing that's going to set the books apart from other Vicksburg sorts of things. And of course, the thing that's nice about this series that makes it different from the Emerging Civil War series is it's just lushly illustrated with a lot of color images on glossy paper. So it's just a beautiful book. And so I think that that's something else that this series brings to the Vicksburg historiography because there's not a whole lot of color books that have a lot of color graphics about Vicksburg.
Any challenges that you had to face while putting this together?
I'm covering, 9 months of the war and trying to get it crammed into 70,000 words is a challenge. A lot of personalities, a lot of different attempts. And so there was just a tremendous amount of time and material to try to compress in a good, easy, friendly, reader friendly sort of way. So I think maybe kind of going back to your earlier question about like, is there something new or surprising in here? Spending a little bit more time with Grant's time in northern Mississippi, southeast Tennessee, or southwest Tennessee, where he's getting ready to move into Mississippi for the first time, and so he has a lot of contraband, former enslaved people that are now free thanks to the Emancipation Proclamation, and so kind of writing through some of that and kind of seeing really what Grant did during that period with those folks and trying to figure out a way to deal with the logistics of that. That was pretty fascinating to me, and that might be something that folks aren't familiar with.
And what was your favorite part about writing and putting this project together?
Just having the time to write about a campaign that fascinates me in a way that let me engage with it in a deeper way than I hadn't before. I mean, it's still 30,000 feet view, so it's not like I'm super, super in-depthly engaged, but to be able to tell the whole story, weave together all those threads, put that together with the time I've spent on the ground and talking with folks like Tim Smith and Parker Hills, and uh, it was really a great opportunity to kind of bring it all together for the first time for me in a way to tell that whole story.
Excellent. And so, on a personal level, sorry, what was it like for you, not just being part of this project, but actually seeing your name on the cover of something, like Casemates Illustrated?
Yeah, I'm still, part of me is still like an 8-year-old kid, and seeing my name in print on a book cover is always thrilling and exciting to me. So that final finished product and seeing how beautiful these books were. But honestly, the biggest thrill about the whole project was that I got to work a little bit with Terry Winchell, who's kind of the legendary former chief historian out at Vicksburg. And when Ted asked me to do this, I said, "Oh, I'll do it, but I'd really appreciate it. Maybe we could talk to Terry and see if he'd backstop me and just sort of check everything out and make sure I've got it all right." Because, this is really my first time getting into some of this stuff. And Terry could not have been kinder and more generous and more thoughtful and insightful and supportive. And for me, part of me is also an 8-year-old fanboy, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I get to work with Terry, and he was just so wonderful. So that was a big thrill for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris, for giving up your time and coming and talking about your Casemates Illustrated books.
Here, I'll see if I can get them to dance on the screen for us. Woo.
Excellent. Well done. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the Vicksburg Campaign 1863 grants a failed offensive is the first one, and Vicksburg Campaign 1863, the inland battles, siege and surrender. And these are all available at www.casematepublishing.com. And all that is left to say is we'll see you online and on the battlefield.